All right.
Good to go.
I see the record button. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Spark, igniting your passion to live your life purpose. I am your hostess with the mostest, Jan Taplin, and I have with me today the amazing Abby Matzke. She is a PhD in natural medicine, among other many things. And I knew Abby back when I was practicing chiropractic in Mankato, Minnesota. And the story that jumps out or stays in my mind is that we had a family that was seeing both myself and Abby, and she had helped him overcome some things, but he still had that doubt in his head. So he ended up going to another practitioner who basically confirmed everything that Abby had already told him. And so that just really sticks in my mind that the things that she's doing are spot on, and she's helping a lot of people. So today, of course, with being the spark, is your passion to live your life purpose. So Abby, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate your time and the energy you put into this, and you,
Oh,
because it's just nice to get together with a friend again after a few years. Even if it's via Zoom,
awesome.
it still counts.
Right, right, right. So as far as your life purpose, how did you discover or how did you come to this type of work?
It's kind of a long story. I'll truncate to some degree. I've
Uh-huh.
always had an aversion to mainstream medical, which is not necessarily what drove me this direction, but it was a big player in it because I grew up in Upper Michigan, and at some point here, about 10 years ago now, I was bit by a tick, which sparked Lyme disease. Which so
Hmm.
sometimes our journeys are pushed by the negative to some degree. Something that seems like it would be a bad thing, but that's what transforms us to the
Something,
next level. So,
yeah, something unpleasant turns out to lead you down a different path.
yeah, it was really scary actually, because especially 10 years ago, nobody knew what they were doing. It seemed like,
Hmm.
you don't hear about people getting over it. Everybody online is talking, in the forums, they're all the people who haven't solved it, more or less. At least at that time, it was all very much scary. So, anyway, took matters into my own
Hmm.
hands and went natural with it because I didn't want to be on a year of antibiotics or whatever the standard was at the time. It was something to that effect. So went into the natural medicine, bioenergetics, eventually got the PhD in natural medicine, and then developed my emotion work because so many people plateau even though they're doing all the right things. So getting down to that core
Hmm.
issue again, trying to solve what most people think is unsolvable, that's where I went with that. So that
Hmm.
really shortened down a decade into 45
Yeah,
seconds.
that was very precise. Awesome. What are some of the things that you had done prior to doing this? And were you like a lot of people out there where you were just going through the motions and going to work, but not really finding enjoyment out of it?
I've always been really focused on whatever it is that I'm doing. So before that journey started, it was I'm going to raise my kids, I'm going to be home with them, I'm going to do everything A plus in whatever realm I'm given to be in. So yeah, it was a lot of not knowing what's next, I guess, is probably the hardest part of
Hmm.
being mom with little kids, because there's going to be more, but you don't know when to start it, and you don't know, it's hard to
Hmm.
wash dishes every day and think that there's a major big impact this is making. um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess that type of
Hmm.
lifestyle, and that is, I love doing that, but in a lot of people there's kind of this drive that there's always something bigger and more, and keep going, keep trying, keep doing. I guess that
Hmm.
was where I was at. So it was a nice shove off the cliff in a way.
Hmm. Well, you had mentioned I thought that you had been involved in like a publishing company or something.
It was. So after I
Okay.
was, is it okay?
I had a message pop in,
Oh,
so I had to
they
get
do
rid
that.
of it. Uh-huh.
After when I had the kids, actually, I think I had a magazine for about 12 years, and it was small, but I had what do you call it? A 4-year degree as an English major. There we go. Sorry, my vocabulary. 4-year
There was
degrees in
no
What's
I thought it was just funny. It's like, I had what was that word? Oh yeah, English.
right? I can English, as my daughter would say. I can English.
Uh-huh.
So an English major, and I thought that was my path. We, shoved into coming out of high school. It was go be a teacher. Teachers, change the world, basically. So I went into an education degree with a Spanish and English major. So it was triple major, basically. And one by one, I found out those weren't really where I wanted to be going. Came out with the
Hmm.
English major and went, well, I'll start something of my own. So I started a small magazine, and it circulated probably, I think officially we were over 500. Um,
Hmm.
but though the audience was such that they would get one and they'd pass it to like 12 other people. Literally, I would get messages like that all the time. So it ended up not being, it didn't pay for itself. Well, it paid for itself, but it didn't pay for my time. So after the kids were taken care of all day long,
Mm.
I would stay up into the night editing this magazine
Oh wow.
and getting basically nothing in return, monetary
Uh-huh.
wise. It was fulfilling in some ways, but there comes a point where it's time to leave that stage and go to the next. Really hard to let go of some of that stuff though, because when it's like a baby of its own.
Yeah.
So I know you've
Hmm.
had that experience too, kind of
Oh
leaving one
gosh.
experience for the next.
Oh yeah, probably too many. But I think for me, and I think that you're probably like that too, is that if your heart's not fully in it, like you're either in or you're out. You're not like kind of sorta,
Right.
you know. Yeah. So for people that are going to work and they just dread it, I always encourage them to find a way to change your attitude. So when you go to work, there's, that I'm going to bloom where I'm planted kind of idea, that you're not just, oh, I got to go again, but okay, I'm going today. I'm going to live my life purpose. I'm going to make somebody smile today or whatever. It can be something minor, but you give yourself that to look forward to instead of dreading it.
Yeah. Yeah. Doing the
Yeah.
best we can where we're at to be happy. It's because nothing really stays the same forever. It might seem like it's never going to
Hmm.
change, but at all at once. I mean, last year is a case in point.
Right.
I mean, who doesn't wish
Hmm.
2019 back into existence to some degree?
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh, we thought things were
Uh-huh.
always going to be the same, and nope. Time to learn a new lesson and try something new.
Right. Well, how did 2020 impact your business, and what are some things that you had to do a major shift in, if you don't mind sharing that?
Yeah, it was a big shift because I've always been one to believe that if you just put in the hard work, if you just put in more hours, if you just try harder and know more and add value and all this, that it's going to come together on its own, right? And when COVID hit, everybody canceled their appointment. So everything that I had built up for how many years, people were being very Minnesota nice, and they were calling and saying, I'm going to cancel and I'll reschedule when this is over. So I thought, okay, this was supposed to be 15 days. So when we could see it was probably not going to be 15 days, I poured myself into taking the same business online. And
Hmm.
between people's mental states and worries and whatnot, that didn't really fly either. And it wasn't for lack of effort. It was a lot of effort. It was like a month and a half of try, try, try. And at the end of that time, my business was dead. It was it was dead. And I'm like, how am I going to let the few people that want to come back in know I'm not here anymore? So there
Hmm.
was like a 3-day mourning. Like, it's dead now. I don't know what to do. Like, how do I just shut doors and be finished when this is what I've been given to do? Um, you use your skills for
Mm.
what you think you're supposed to be for. So
Uh-huh.
one thing led to another, and I had already hired a person to work with me online, a business coach online, to help launch what that business was. And
Hmm.
she stepped back at this point with me and she said, I think you're serving the wrong audience. You've got this other, like this emotional piece that I had basically learned to instantly pinpoint and break through people's emotional patterns very quickly. Like in a session, they look different, they act different, they think different. It's really
Mm.
fascinating. Just
Hmm.
to get rid of
Hmm.
those burdens. She said, you should be taking just that, which is really the fun work. It's the more impactful work. It's the thing that like solves deeper issues, and make a package out of that and serve a different community. So that's where it's almost like a totally different business was born. And it's just
Nice.
the
Wow.
emotion work. Lots of fun. Lots of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it that was what my business needed. So I still do some of the naturopathy type work, the traditional naturopath work, but the emotion work is really
Mm-hmm.
that's my sports section. I love it more than all the rest of it.
Nice. And that wouldn't have come about as quickly, at least, if this whole thing hadn't come
Right.
about.
It really came
Mm-hmm.
down to, well, what have I got to lose? It's all gone. So
Uh-huh.
let's go. Like we have to try something. So
Yeah.
it seemed like,
Mm-hmm.
I did do about a month of like, can I, like, who are my people then? And what are they thinking? What do they need? What changes can I really make for them? Because when I'm working with
Mm-hmm.
somebody in a health program and they're stuck and it's emotional, I don't have to do a lot of educational work on that. It's like, well, obviously we're doing everything else. Let's try this and see what happens. And they shift and they love it. I've got people that drive for hours just to do that. And a lot of people on Zoom now from multiple states and a couple of countries
Mm-hmm.
that will call in for that, for just the emotion work
Nice.
now. But the
Mm-hmm.
in business and mindset and just really life happiness, I think a lot of people don't realize that all of these shifts and journeys that we make, whether it's business or multiple businesses or whatever it is, it's more of a journey for ourselves, for our
Uh-huh.
own souls to develop and our own self to enjoy and get richer inside that way. And
Mm-hmm.
inside is really the point. Money is just a piece of the energy. It's a piece of the puzzle. It's a piece of people's measure of success in some ways. But when they're
Mm-hmm.
happy, when they're not dragging their burdens around, when they're not being controlled by a past belief all the time, everything kind of falls into place. So that's been tons of fun to watch people transform and see what new
Mm-hmm.
places they get to that way.
Yeah. So oops, I almost knocked this over.
You're rocking the
Okay,
world.
let's start this again. Um, would you say that the majority of your clients really come in not having a clue how their emotions are tied, or are they like they've tried everything else and so this is like the last thing, I don't know what else to do? What are the where are people at when most of them come to see you?
A lot of them are just at a I don't want to say desperation, but that's kind of like that, because people come in and out of these modes daily. You can have like your 5 minutes of, but when they come to me, they've had enough of those exasperation, frustration type moments where they're like, I just don't know what to do. I don't like, I've done the strategy, I've done the tactics, I've hired a bunch of coaches. That's often where they've been. Now there's a few that skipped a lot of that fluff and they just somehow innately know, like, they can piece a business together. They know that that will happen. But if they're constantly struggling inside, they're not going to show up
Mm,
as powerfully for their clients. They're not going to make the decisions as quickly as they could. They're not going to act as quickly or as decisively, as powerfully as they can. And that's really what brings in the referrals. If they're clear in themselves and they know what they're about, where they're going, what their people need, their clients are going to get better results, and then they get a lot more referrals. So it all kind of snowballs on its own.
mhm.
Takes the main message I get back from clients after they've been through one of my programs is everything feels easier. Like every just
Oh,
everything feels easier. And they might still
mhm,
have moments because that's the human experience, but the things that were stopping them at the time, the things that the way they processed things changes. So they can
mhm,
look at something and be much more objective instead of like soaking everything up like a sponge and then being either uptight or depressed or angry. They
mhm.
don't fall into that pattern, and they can say if that person is acting this way because they have something going on. And there's a whole lot more forgiveness involved too, it seems. It's quite the major transformation. So it's a little bit hard to put into like, this is what's going to happen for you when things shift in all the places.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mhm. Well, to me it does, but I mean, having been a practitioner, and seeing um, how emotions really play into, at least as a chiropractor, the times that I saw where it was a physical ailment that showed up because of something emotional.
And I remember
You know
you
what I mean?
talking to me about this when I was first getting in, because you were, I think the first place I really rented in a collaboration, you were the head honcho. And I remember you talking about this person came in with a headache, and you asked like one question, and she was thoughtful about it, and her headaches went away. Like like all she needed to do was know
Mhm.
something a little more, just a little bit deeper about why she was having the symptom. So
Right.
I don't think
Mhm.
people naturally understand how tightly connected that mind body spirit, or that mind and body connection is. That
Mhm.
if there's something off over here, it's going to be off over here, and they're both going to react to each other.
Right.
So yeah,
Yep.
I think you
I
were one
mean,
of the
it
first
is.
people that pointed that out. And I'm like, no, we can fix it with remedies, right? Like just throw
Oh,
something at
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So it was a little
Mhm.
bit, ironically, a little bit more mainstream medical in my mind in some ways, that it could
Oh,
be emotional. All we need to do is work at it, right?
uh-huh.
So
Yep. Put the right,
I've had to think differently
yeah.
too, but that was part of that was you.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I remember a patient that came in. He and his wife were in town. They were visiting, so I only saw him once, and I don't even remember what it was that I was. I know that I was working on an area. I think it was his. I think it was his right. It feels like, if I remember correctly, it was like a shoulder or something. And as I was, kind of feeling things, I asked a question, and I don't want to share too much information because
Right.
you never know who knows. I mean,
Right.
whatever. Um, but I asked like about something that was going on, and the guy started crying on my table. And I had never met him before, and it had to do with, they were actually in town because of a situation with the grandchild, and yeah, it was like, whoa, and I asked it, and it was spot on, and I was like, oh, wow. Um, but because he lived out of town, I never, got to be able to follow up with his care.
Yeah.
But just that alone, even if it doesn't make a change at that moment, if you've planted that seed
Right.
for something to happen.
Right. Yeah. And that might be all he needed to start thinking through, why
Yeah.
are these things packed the way they are. It's interesting.
Hmm.
I kind of wish I had a couple close chiropractors that are practicing like right now, so that I can bounce it off of them, because, and you would have been
Uh-huh.
perfect for this. So I wish you were still in town here. But
Uh-huh.
the people who come in, who have, when I'm doing the emotion work, their shoulders hold so much tension. It's
Oh,
like
yes.
literally when they say a
Hmm.
weight feels like it was lifted off, you'll watch their posture change. And I'm wondering chiropractically, how much is that? I mean, that's affecting the spine. Their head will be pushed forward like they're pushing against a brick wall, like
Hmm.
like forcing themselves through life, or hunched down like they've got a backpack still, like something was
Yeah.
heavy at that time, so they
Hmm.
have the posture of a backpack is on. um, it would be fascinating to have that background as a chiropractor too, to watch the spine
Yeah.
change and the structure change from the emotions being all cramped up in there.
Hmm.
It's
Right.
fascinating to
Tightened
me.
up. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, you can actually learn a lot, from studying the things with the posture and everything. If a person where they kind of almost like, it looks like they have their tail tucked in,
Yeah,
that's usually like past trauma, which
that
you
would make
maybe know that
sense.
already. Yeah,
Well,
right. Hmm.
that one specifically hasn't come up. What comes up a lot on people is, and this is like probably once a week, I find this in somebody. You know how when a child runs past, any mom or dad would get it, and you can grab them by the hips, and they can't move forward. We trap a lot of emotions in the hip region that stop us from moving forward in a lot of different ways,
Oh,
like sometimes physically, but emotional body speaking, like they're stuck, like something is literally holding them by the hips emotionally,
oh,
and they can't
okay.
move
Uh-huh.
forward no matter how much they try. So when we release
Hmm.
that, they feel a whole lot freer emotionally, then mentally, to make these decisions. So the hips are a big region too. And I bet you would see that in chiropractic work also then. So it's just,
Sure.
I get such a
Yeah.
kick out of this stuff. Like it entertains me. So I don't, luckily my clients
Mm-hmm.
are super forgiving. And when I'm like all excited and kind of laughing about the idiosyncrasies of humans. And then
Yeah.
they can kind of laugh at
Mm-hmm.
themselves a little bit too, like, yeah, that is exactly what's going on. And that sounds silly when you put it really bluntly, but we pile
Mm-hmm.
these things up because we can't, life comes at us so fast. We can't process it fast
Right.
enough. So we all have this. So I look at all these things that people are carrying with zero judgment. It's like, this
Mm-hmm.
is what we do. I mean, this is what we all do. And it's
Right.
the way you pack it in is just the way you packed it in as opposed to the way I did or somebody else did. So start ripping off those band-aids because they're not serving us
Right.
anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, and speaking of judgment, I mean, even the self-judgment that people do. Do you work at clearing that too?
that's kind of the main thing because we make these rules for ourselves and these subconscious messages because of what somebody said or how somebody reacted. It could be as quick as, a dirty
Mm-hmm.
look from the teacher, like
Oh yeah.
that wasn't a good enough effort. And you had, for you as a, say, third or sixth grader or whatever it was, you had poured in enough effort to where this was special enough to you and you got this judgment. Well, now it's like, well, my
Mm-hmm.
best isn't going to be good enough. Somebody's going to be unhappy. I'm going to get criticism, even if it's not verbal. So they can, the things that you can pack in from a moment's incident that ends up being
Just a
formative.
few words. Yeah.
Yeah, even no words.
Mm-hmm.
It's, somebody gave you this dirty look because
Or yeah,
you,
look.
right? And 2020, I mean, there's a lot of that going on. It doesn't matter what side of the debates you're on. It's that dirty look from somebody
Mm-hmm.
where you're walking out of the store like, oh, that was a bad experience. And no words were even exchanged. it's
Mm-hmm.
it's all these tiny traumas. Now we're, wanting, everybody wants to be a hermit now to some degree. Like just
Yeah. Don't let me.
don't
I don't want to
interact
deal with
because we
people.
don't want this. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a haul getting people past some of that stuff. I don't mean to like go on and on, but I've
Oh
had some
no,
of
that's.
the
Mm-hmm.
strongest, emotionally strong people who are, you'd look at them and be like, they have everything together. They're the ones that are cracking more inside because so much is out of control. The ones who hold it together,
Mm-hmm.
like, you and I, or we pretend to anyway.
Yeah.
We can put ourselves together and get through because there's enough stability that there's something to count on. Well, with so much yanked out from under people like you and I are often the ones who are like, I
Mm-hmm.
look like I have it together, but this really sets me off.
I'm
I
just as
hate
lost
this
as
place.
everybody else, but
Right. Yeah. And it's,
but
it's
maybe
like,
not as, yeah, maybe not as emotionally upset about it,
right. It seems to
right?
be
Like
coming
you
out
can
as
go with the
anger,
flow.
a lot of anger packed in about like as soon as they go toward their workplace, they're just like, I don't want to park here. I don't want to be here. Like it starts being to where their car is a trigger for them, not consciously, but they get in and they instantly start like, oh, I have to go like into this war zone again of
Mm-hmm.
people's attitudes and comments, and they're not allowed to speak back. And I mean, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's been a thing. So, but these things
Mm-hmm.
have been happening all along. I just feel like last year they kind of compounded on a lot of us. And
Yeah. I think I felt like everything got magnified. The good got magnified, but then the bad got magnified. And if you even think, I don't know, in terms of good and bad, I mean, I don't know. I need to get into philosophy, but I mean, I lost a lifetime, well, not a lifetime friend. How long have we been friends? Just because we had different ideas of looking at things. I'm like, okay, I mean, I would love to remain friends, but if we can't respectfully disagree and still be friends, well, sorry,
yeah,
but I didn't let it crush me because then that just tells me there must be someone else to fill that space for me that's a better match, I guess, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah,
It's hard to have those kind of changes though, too, because once again, like that stability that was there, like you knew these people or thought you knew
right.
these people, and then something changed.
Hmm.
And then that can be a
Yeah.
confidence hit for people too. And
Mm-hmm.
some of us muscle
Yeah.
through it way easier. It seems like
Yeah.
we can compartmentalize
Exactly.
it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know Tony Robbins basically, I forget how he puts it, but it's something on the lines of the more like the more turmoil you can handle, like the less stressed of a person you are, which just kind of makes sense. I wish I had his exact quote because it's way better than what I just slaughtered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry,
But,
Tony.
right. He's
Yeah.
that's all right.
I'm
We can
sure
always
he'll
hit
forgive
replay on
me.
him. Right.
Yeah. There you go. I'll find it. But yeah, hmm, well, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's out there. If I find it, maybe I can insert it somewhere
Sure.
as a correction. Hmm.
Yeah. It's something to
Well,
think
Abby,
about. Go ahead.
yeah. Hmm. How do you define success?
For myself, it would be less monetary, honestly. I know a lot of my marketing leans that way because when people need the
Hmm.
help, that's what they're focused on. Is more of a survival issue. It seems like, oh, if I
Hmm.
only had enough, then I would be happy. Like,
Hmm.
well, actually, it's quite the opposite. Like, if you aren't measuring yourself by numbers, if you learn who you are deeply, if you understand, like basically, if you can slice and dice what's going on in your life and the world, if you can gain that clarity, the numbers can follow. But if you're going to put parameters on yourself emotionally and spiritually, you're going to be stuck physically too. So we have to kind of address both ends of it there. Um, we don't want people scraping by in any way, whether it's emotional
Right.
or monetary. So my angle on this is if we can clear everybody up, get their subconscious messages out of the way, get them to understand where they're going, who they are, what they need in life, they're going to have the happiness and the success level that they need or want. So if we're not hung up on ourselves and what's gone on in our lives, we can forgive ourselves, we can move forward and be accommodating to other people and not get hung up on things. The sky's the limit monetarily. All that is strategic decisions to get things done. You know, you can lump a business
Hmm.
together, know exactly what marketing you're going to do, have um, your standard operating procedures in place and make it happen. And it's just a matter of rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. But if you're so basically in a mud puddle of your own emotions that you can't get rid of your own subconscious messages and lack of confidence, you're not going to make that next level because you're going to be going in circles. So my level of
Hmm.
my idea of success is honestly, I want time to ride my horse. I need to get outside
Hey.
because it's like me, I'm an outdoors person. Um, I love people to a degree, and then I need me time. So like I think like everybody, but it's taken a little bit of time. You know, when you've got little kids and stuff, you don't get me time. It just doesn't happen, not very easily
Hmm.
anyway. So to carve out that time for me, and I've been doing better at it, and things are coming together. I'm so much more relaxed about where I'm at, having a plan and then being able to work the plan because I'm not sitting in my own way either. Like I know there's going to be work,
Hmm.
but there's also time to play, finding that balance, giving the allowance to find balance. So that's not a very pointed answer, but does it make sense?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Just want to be
So,
happy.
yeah, just yeah, to be able to be happy in whatever you're doing. Fulfillment, would you say being fulfilled is?
Fulfillment. You're asking me what I think it is or what?
No, I was meaning it sounded like that would be the word that I would put on what you're talking about. Like you have time for your horse and doing all those things. That sounds like someone that feels like has
Say
fulfillment in their
fulfilled
life, I guess.
and authentic. Um, Not putting on a major facade for people, understanding that we're all on the same level basically, and we're all on the same
Hmm.
path to some degree, and we just need to coax each other forward and help each other along. I just find
Right.
every day quite fun, honestly. There's not a lot to be upset about usually. Sometimes things are
Right.
shocking and then but you have to process and be done with it. um,
Right.
I don't, I guess I don't, I'm not hung up on a number. If I
Uh-huh.
get to a certain place or not, it's really immaterial to a large degree. It's going to
Hmm.
come just because we've got the plan and we're out of the way. So
Right.
that's no reason not to be happy.
Yeah. And just because you don't specifically have a number in mind doesn't mean that you can't help coach other people that do have a number in mind that say, I want XYZ
Right.
income. How do I get there?
Right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of my pet peeves. I've seen people online say, you can't help somebody obtain something that you haven't gotten yourself. And I'm like, tell that to all the male doctors out there that deliver babies. Like,
Oh, yeah.
there's a thousand different examples at least of people who haven't done it themselves that can help you do whatever. I've helped a number of people go from basically no business to having a business, from going out of a career that they hate to starting one that they love. And that to them is success at that level, helping people go from multiple six up to $1 million. I've had people do that. And it's all a matter of, their fears are in the way, their doubts that they can handle it, their doubts that they want people to see them at that level. Because to do that, you have to start putting out some ads. You have to be more visible so more people can come into your programs, with the coaches and entrepreneurs. So more people buy your things. So you're going to be more visible. It's very scary to think, okay, so now instead of 100 people seeing me, 100,000 people are going to see me. What are they going to say?
Yeah.
Getting that fear out of the way.
Right. Yeah.
And getting their confidence up. Like, well, of course, if you've got the clarity and you feel comfortable in what you're doing, this is going to be a nothing burger. Like, you just, as far as the effort level, you're just going to, what needs doing. You're not doing it because you're afraid of something imaginary that may never happen. I mean, you might get trolled online. So what? I mean, if you know exactly what the deal is there, it's not a big deal. It's, understanding people and understanding yourself. So that the visibility factor is a big deal. The confidence level, the overwhelm is another big one. They're like, well, I have to give up these things, and then they're going to feel that loss. But then if I only do this, it's going to snowball on me. It's going to be too much to handle. Well, they just haven't basically their fear is stopping them from thinking through, what pieces do I need in place? Who do I need to hire? Basically, what do I need to have happen and automated to make this happen without extra work? It's all out there. All these mechanics are out there. It's just, are we thinking clearly and dynamically enough to make it happen? So,
right.
Makes some sense anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got an example of sharing. As a matter of fact, the person that I signed up for just yesterday had said that when she coaches people, she does not coach them about anything that she hasn't already done herself. And that, people shouldn't do that. And I wanted to say, not true, because just the exact thing that you said. I had a client or a patient that I coached that ended up running a marathon. Sorry, but I haven't even run a 5K. Hello. So, and I coached another gal that was retired that ran a half a marathon. I've never done it. I just was able to work with the mindset. So I agree with you 100%. We can coach people on things that we may not have done yet.
Right.
We have the potential to do it. To me, it's not that important if I run a marathon or not, but it sure was important to that person. And we can make that happen,
Right.
So I love that you're not letting that stop you.
We can't all do everything, and that's fine. Now I had one person ask, when did you make your first $1 million? And I'm like, look, I've got 4 kids. I homeschool them. I'm running this business. I'm running that business. I happen to be able to tell you these things. Do you want the measure to be, I've got the money, or do you want the measure to be, I can tell you right now what your subconscious issues are without, like, I have a skill you can't have. I mean, to that person, like,
yeah,
but you're going to qualify me on the place you want to be, like that. Do you want me to stand at the end of the marathon, or do you want me to hand you glasses of water on the way so you can get there?
Right.
There's this whole, so I think it's because the online space has gotten competitive, and some people want that to be a measure of your worth. we need to
Yeah.
drop this idea of numbers are a measure of worth, because it's not. It can all go away in an
Mm-hmm.
instant,
That is very true.
and
Mm-hmm.
it can all come into existence in an instant too. This is
That's true too, right?
right.
Yeah, we can lose it or we can gain it just as easily.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
it's but then, back to that philosophy thing, that I don't think we can really upstage or up level, I should say, without thinking through the why, thinking through the where are we going, where have we been, who are we type of basically the philosophy has to come into play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Otherwise we stay immature forever. It's
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to think and grow spiritually. It's not just about the physical world.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
keep hammering that
So
one.
that it, no, that's okay. So is that what fuels you? I mean, seeing other people succeed? What is it that fuels your fire?
I love to see them be happier, be healthier, be more fulfilled, find what they really want. So, if they come to me saying that what they really want is, and I've had people do this, I want to go from the 400,000 that I made last year to 800,000 this year. That's what I want them to do. But in the process, we can do that so much more, like real riches in the inside of them, knowing more about them and about life and understanding things that they
Mm-hmm.
can really enjoy. If they hit their 800,000 goal, they're really going to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be fluffy numbers, because you can hit that number and be a totally miserable person.
Yes.
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to make them happy.
Yeah.
It might make life a little easier in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
but
Right.
yeah.
Well, and talk to anyone who has wealth, but they don't have their health. And
Right.
they would trade all of that money to get their health back. I mean, I'm currently helping people in their homes that can't do things on their own.
Yeah.
And that there's not one of them that has said to me, "Oh yeah, I'm glad that I have all this money." I mean, even though I don't have my health, they
Right.
would give it up in an instant
Right.
to have their health back and have that joy in life again. But anyway,
Yeah.
some of them are obviously still joyful and dealing with whatever the physical component is too. But if they had both, um,
It's an amazing
be much
challenge.
happier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do. So this woman that had asked me, when did you make your first million? My answer to that is, honestly, it's not in my plan this year, because I want to enjoy my people
Mm-hmm.
where they're at right now, having the smaller children. So that's something I can't get back. If I burn up time trying to get all the pieces into place to manage a team that can make a couple $1,000,000, like I know it can be
Mm-hmm.
done, but then I've lost a year with my 5-year-old. She's never going to be like that again. So why would I trade that for a number? So I didn't say it quite like
Mm-hmm.
that, but that's kind of the gist of, in my mind, if it takes me 2 years, if it takes me 3 years, I am completely okay with that, because I'm not willing to give up the people aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
If I decide to put into place a mechanics that will do that, if I want to sell a different product, I've been told that I should go to group programs, but the joy I get out of seeing one person just light up, one person get over a trauma that's held them back for 25 years. I love that one-on-one work right now, but I'm going to give my
Uh-huh.
allowance to change too. So my goals can change whenever, but I want to enjoy my
Yeah.
kids. I want to enjoy, like, the reason I was building a business was my family. So I don't want it to take my
Mm-hmm.
family away from me. It's all people's priorities.
Wow. Very powerful.
I hope
That's
so.
very
For me,
powerful.
it works.
Yeah.
If somebody else has a different
Mm-hmm.
priority, that's awesome. I'm going to help them with that. But
Right. Right. Oh, that's great. Wow. Well, any words of wisdom for someone that is at a point where they're thinking about starting something new and they just don't know what they should do as far as like they want to, get out of the 9 to 5 job and set their own schedule and do their own thing.
sure, while they're hating their 9 to 5, which I wish they wouldn't. But, you know, as they get off work or have their breaks, they need to start piecing together a plan. People are really empowered when they have some sort of a plan, even if it's a dream plan. Like, start thinking of how this could be put together and how this could work, and then just jump, make it happen. If you've got a workable plan, go out there and do it. You can always tweak the plan. Um, I don't like to see people sit in a place where they end up being depressed for years and like dribbling away years of their life unhappy, when what are you getting out of it then? Like, it's killing you slowly. You only have so much
Mm-hmm.
time here. Make the best of it. And if your dream is to, has been a couple of my clients just in the past few months, shift the gears, go do what you love, and it's going to fall into place. But what I've also seen is if they leave those fears in the way, it's just going to stay scary, and they're not going to enjoy the ride at all. They're probably going to quit.
Right.
So I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to see people quitting either, especially when it comes to like their lifelong fulfillment. I have
Mm-hmm.
actually my own husband, lots of job changes over the years for different reasons, a lot of them health and anxiety, like a lot of people, right? Especially lately, it seems like the anxiety levels have gone up, up, up with people. The last
Mm-hmm.
time his job shifted, it was quite the shock. It was like a day before Thanksgiving. Yeah, it was like or the Monday after Thanksgiving a couple of years ago. And they said, well, we rearranged the routes and you're done unless you sign up for this. And it was insane. It was like 400 and some miles a day on a courier route. And it was going to be like a 10 to 12-hour route and a pay cut. It's like, no, now
Yeah.
you've made it
Oh yeah, let me sign up for that.
right less than minimum wage. The truck that he would need is going to take a year's wages to be like, this is stupid. So you're done. His dream was always to farm. And I feel so strongly that somebody should do what they feel they should be doing. Like, you were created with a certain set of skills and a certain desire. Chase it so that you feel fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
We made huge sacrifice so that he could, like, we're gonna stick your toe in this farming door and keep wedging it open. So this is his third year of organic
Oh,
farming.
wow,
What a ride.
great.
But I've always wanted to make decisions. This was early on, like in college, I decided that I wanted to make
Mm-hmm.
all of my decisions so that I could look back and not regret them. Now, maybe they wouldn't all turn out fantastically, but it was kind of a way I could make a decision and be like, well, I did the best I could at the time. So when he
Yeah.
lost that job, I'm like, well, considering everything that's gone on, the position things were in, it wasn't going to be easy. But how many other chances are you going to get? Instead of being in a soul sucking job, you can be out there growing, you know, watching the plants grow and feeling fulfilled and seeing God's creation and all the things that would feed your soul. That's where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
We at least need to try. If we fail and you have to go back to something else, at least we tried. But if you get to like 90 years old and never tried, you're going to regret that more than anything.
Absolutely.
So I'm one of those
Mm-hmm.
people willing to make the sacrifice to follow the dream. Like, we're going to make it happen. It's like, you weren't given this desire for nothing.
Right. Nice. That's good.
A little hardcore.
So, mm-hmm. So just out of curiosity, do you have a definition for failure?
Gosh, that's a deep one. I would
Mm-hmm.
think offhand. So I'm reserving the right to edit this, at least down the road, as I think more deeply on it. I guess I
Uh-huh.
don't see a lot of things as a failure, because sometimes things happen to us and I mean, crap happens. You can't control it all. Was that a failure? No,
Yeah.
it was crap happens. So you make the best you
Yeah.
can of it and keep going forward. If you
Mm-hmm.
quit completely, if you lose the dream, if you're like, I can't, I'm just not going to, that I would consider probably on my list of failures, at least if they like,
Mm-hmm.
if they can't snap out of it, if they won't snap out of it, I should say. Different if you can't,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying, um, giving
Yeah.
up on yourself, not going for it when you've got a chance, and then giving up for good. I guess that would be failure.
Okay.
You can't always
Mm-hmm.
control the outcome, but you can control the try level. You can control the heart that you put into it and
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
intentions.
Nice.
I'm going to have to fill that one out at some point. You've got me thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good.
Do
Well,
you
gosh, this has
have a
been
measure of
great.
it then?
Do I have a measure of failure?
Yeah.
When I kind of am like you. If you don't at least try, that is a failure. But yeah, I think there's always the opportunity to learn something in whatever you do.
Right.
So if something has happened and you haven't learned from it, I guess that's sure. I didn't expect for me to be put on the spot with my own
This is a hard
questions.
question.
Yeah, sorry. Didn't I put that on the list? I thought I
Don't
did.
know.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, thank you for asking me that. Yeah, and who knows, maybe down the line I'll have a different idea of that as well. I don't know.
Right. We're allowed to
So,
keep growing, so and developing the ideas.
absolutely, absolutely. Right? Hmm. Yeah, I mean, even the most successful people sometimes they'll I want to say it was something that I had read in a Oh, I remember what it was. Tony Robbins used to tell everybody, just eat fruit on an empty stomach before you eat anything else. And then at some point he changed that. And I remember even um, reading about how, hey, you know what? I learned more now and now I know something different. So now I'm not recommending that. And big deal. And I move on.
Right.
So he's not stuck on the fact that he told somebody information that he now has come to believe isn't quite accurate. So
Right. Yeah, if you don't allow
yeah,
yourself to develop and move forward and change things and adjust to what's happening, then I think that would be counter to how the world works, really. As
right.
far as if you insist it's staying the same, you have to adapt to what's going on and the circumstances and the mindset.
Hmm.
Like each generation has its own quirks and characteristics. And if you don't work with it, I'm not even sure what that does to you. You have to move forward. You have to accommodate.
Hmm.
It's a lot of thinking and
Yeah,
adapting.
yeah. Overcome. My husband has a saying, and I forget what it is. It's something, overcome, and adapt. Um, and so when those three things, you'd think I'd remember it by now because he's told me that enough times.
Right. Well, even if we can just
Uh,
overcome and adapt, we're going to be doing really well.
that's
So,
enough, right? Hmm.
right.
Yeah, yeah, especially in all that's going on in the world around us. So,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I appreciate you taking the time to get together with me today. If somebody wants to reach out to you and sign up for a session with you, how do they go about doing that, Abby?
Sure. Well, they can contact me on social media. I'm on a couple different platforms. I don't check Instagram that much. I'm just kind of not the Instagram generation, um, or I don't feel like it anyway. LinkedIn, I'm on there. I'm on Facebook. They can look me up by my name, Abby Matzke. I've got a group there called Fearless Soulpreneurs that they can jump into if they like. I have a website currently being built. It's like in the editing stages, and I think it's abbymatzke.com. I want to make sure if I'm not right, just find me on Facebook or somewhere. I'm on a couple other platforms too, but those would be the main
Okay.
ones to find me on at this point.
All right. And it's ABBYMATZKE.
You're so good.
Um, well, that, and I'm making sure because it pops up down here. So
Okay. Cheat sheets are
using
good.
my resources, just making sure.
It's brilliant.
I cannot tell a lie.
That's right. It is on the screen, I think, in the recording too. So
It does. Yeah. So
awesome.
anyway, thanks so much. And, I hope that this lifts you up and lifts the world around you up because the more that we share about ourselves and what we're doing, the more people we can touch. So
Awesome.
thanks for
Thank you
being
for
on the
having me.
Spark. All
Awesome.
right.
Fantastic. Right.